Welcome everyone. Welcome to Admiral Markets. My name is Chris. Thanks for joining us on this strategy webinar today on this 12th of August as we take a look at the Forex market, at the euro dollar, pound dollar, and other currency pairs. Before we do that though, and discuss one or various strategies perhaps, please be aware that this webinar is intended for a global audience and may not be suitable for everyone. Please take a look at admiralmarketsglobal.com, select your country of residence, and contact an appropriate entity to find out if it is suitable for you and other conditions and details. Also, trading for exchange in global financial markets is considered high risk and may not be suitable for all traders and investors. Therefore, please seek the advice of an independent financial advisor for more information on that. This webinar is not advice and is for informational and educational purposes only. And by continuing watching this webinar, you agree with this disclaimer and you are aware of the risks involved when potentially trading for foreign exchange market. All right, thank you so much for your attention on that. Before we kick off the webinar, also be aware that the MetaTrader 4 Supreme Edition of Admiral Markets has 56 additional features to take your trading to the next level with all kind of various elements like a sentiment trader, a correlation matrix, a lot of good stuff that you can use. You can also have actually a risk management, let's say a lot size calculator you can find in one of those 56 additional features. So there are a lot of good things. Take a look at the Admiral Markets website. All right, today we're going to take a look at strategy. If anyone has a preference for strategy, let me know. If you have a particular indicator, concept in mind, I'm all ears. I'm in a way going to be flexible today. So if you have any preference, please let me know. Otherwise, in the meantime, let's take a look at the calendar. Here you can see my wave analysis of today, by the way, which is part of the analytics that you can find on the Admiral Markets website. And there's just a lot of choppiness on the pound dollar and the euro dollar too, although the euro dollar did push a bit higher yesterday. Let's take a look at some other interesting links, like for instance, the Forex calendar. I will click on that and we can take a look. In the meantime, let's take a look at the euro dollar when that is loading. All right, euro dollar, well, it did push a bit higher yesterday. We had this momentum burst yesterday. We're looking at the fact that there could be a retracement of this swing or perhaps this swing. And in any case, it bounced at support. Didn't know exactly where it would bounce. Could have gone a bit deeper perhaps, but didn't. And we had a good 1 hour candle. That was yesterday. So we saw a bit of follow through. I wasn't too excited about trading it to the upside because resistance seemed near to me. So indeed, it didn't move all too far. It did move max from, let's say, from peak to valley, about 70 pips at the very max. In the meantime, it's still continuing upwards. All right, so let's take a look at the 4-hour chart. One of the things I was looking for is actually a break of this trend line, which did happen, but the break has been, was short yesterday. We did rebound back to that trend line and bounce off it again. All right, so ultimately, we're getting close to challenging 111 now, which is still a resistance spot if you look at these two fractals on the daily level. So from this point of view, kind of stuck between 108 and 111. If we break above 111, there is a bit of a chance to go up to 112.50 perhaps, and 114.50. Those will be the next resistance levels. All right, so I'm not a big fan of trading it at this moment, personally. It is making a breakout. Could be false, could be true. I don't see any setup that I would really like at this moment when looking at euro dollar. Perhaps the bounce could have been interesting, but it happened yesterday. So if you're in that trade, great. If you're not, then what can we do? It's too late. So at this moment, it's close to resistance, and I don't see something very interesting. Now, from a wave perspective, I already said this morning that this could be an ABC. So I don't know. Is this wave B finished? If it does hook back maybe to retest this bottom, it could be interesting at 110. Will it get that deep? I don't know. And if it does get that deep, it's probably more trade for tomorrow anyhow, because then already it's a pretty bearish momentum if that's going to happen. If it brings us all the way down there, right? So if it does get there, it might not be a trade for today, but for tomorrow. So I don't, at this moment, really don't see anything that I think it's interesting. Obviously, there's always a chance to trade it to the opposite direction, to short at maybe a good resistance zone or level like 111. Could be okay. Thing is that we do have a strong channel here, and fading at strong resistances or support is okay, but would like to see a bit more confirmation perhaps. And well, at the moment I just see a pretty strong oscillator, so I don't see that 1, 2, 3. Maybe I'm missing something, but otherwise let's put maybe moving averages on. Kind of breaking back above that 21 band. You can see, yeah, it's trying to drag the 21 above the long term. It tried that here as well, failed, but this time it could succeed. We had a failure here to break this bottom, which means that ultimately this could be a bigger correction. The failure here to break this bottom could mean that, you know, we can correct up to maybe the minus 272 target. That's fine, but we need to break above 111.25, and then there's about 100 pips probably right here. Now, would I play pending order there? No, not at this moment, but it could be a good intraday zone to catch some, let's say, follow through continuation breakouts in that zone. But it wouldn't be a pending order on a 4-hour chart for me, because the risk versus reward box here is not interesting. Look at the blue box. It's a lot smaller than the red box. And why is the red box so big? Because the previous bottoms are all the way here. That's where the stop loss should be. So that's why that blue box is not a 4-hour trade, but a lower time frame trade. It's a okay size. There's nothing wrong with 100 pips. But on a 4-hour chart, it doesn't relate to the risk. But it could be different on an hourly chart or a 50-minute chart, because there, you know, the stop loss could, a tighter stop loss could be used, and potentially, and those boxes then change. All right. So hope that makes sense. Let's take a look at perhaps some other pairs. In the meantime, let me take a look at this calendar. What do we got going on? Let's see. We had Aussie. We have Aussie news still. Well, we had it, sorry. What do we got? Unemployment rate. That's a big one on the pound, right? So we got to be careful of that one. That's going to be big. Claimant count change, also marked as red. What else? Some medium euro news. Some medium dollar news. All right. Now, also news indeed, Beverly, was the effect on China, or sorry, the decision from China, indeed, the Chinese bank to let the yuan or one move more, be a bit more flexible, as far as I've understood. And well, one of the effects that I read could happen is more dollar strength, apparently, especially if the interest rate obviously goes up, but that's a logical one. You know, the dollar would really be the only one that's tightening and not loosening if that happens. Just by not loosening, I guess they're already tightening relatively compared to the world. So I guess that could be consequence of it. That's something that technically, of course, we see as well. A lot of dollar strength, of course, in the last year. Maybe not so much in the last few months, but that downside pressure on most pairs like the euro dollar, pound dollar, is still lingering for continuation. So yeah, that's what I read at least, and I think it makes sense. I mean, I don't analyze the yuan one, so I don't have any technical picture on that. But, all right, let's take a look at the pound dollar. Most of the time, BT, I like to enter after news. It really depends. If it's a news event that is, in my opinion, a bit milder, perhaps sometimes even before it. But in this case, I think this is a big one. Unemployment rate, right? Yeah. So better after. I mean, if you want to play it safe, it's always better after, because you never know how the how it develops, right? Alrighty. Pound dollar. Pound dollar didn't trust this candle that much yesterday. Remember, I said I don't like that. If it does push higher, it could be actually shorting territory due to all these massive tops here, and this could be a fade out and opportunities to look for reversals and potential moves back down. Well, actually, it didn't even get that high. It just kind of peaked here and already started to move down. So kind of the same thing still as yesterday. Big range. If you get to the bottom of the range, could be good to look for bounces. If it gets to the top, could be good to look for bounces. Kind of the same story. Looking at the moving averages, you see why as well, because look what kind of price action is happening right here. Well, price is trying to move away from the long-term average, but can't. Every time it moves away from the average, it goes back to the average. The green boxes are kind of the maximum levels it reaches, and you can see that there's about an average in the middle there. That's kind of the gravity point. That's the middle point, the center point. The long-term average is indicating kind of the halfway point of this range. As price tries to move away from the long term, it gets sucked back into the zone, both to the up and downside. So the moving averages, when there's a range like this, the moving averages will be typically, indeed, the long-term ones will be in the middle, as you can see here. That's very typical. So we're sitting right on the moving averages. And the moving averages are flat, and the moving averages are intertwined with each other. So is that interesting at the moment? And yeah, I think that most of us will say no. There's nothing really, I think, here that's really interesting, unless price gets lower or higher. Yes, we do have some momentum here, but that's very shaky if price is halfway a range like that. Not much to ride on. So from that point of view, I don't see much. Pound dollar, look at the daily too. So let's take a look at other pairs. Because the daily, look at the flat it is. Prices in those moving averages. They're kind of intertwined as well. No angle. All right, so let's take a look at some others. Yeah, that's true, Beverly. I think I read that they had that yuan effect or decision had, indeed many impacts on other markets. That's very true. Alrighty, dollar yen was saying that, well, potentially looking for reversal. We did get some 4-hour wick here. It did close bullish. Personally, I do look for a bearish candle. Maybe we can talk about pin bar strategy because this one did not qualify for me. So we can take a look and talk about what pin bars maybe do qualify. For a pin bar to qualify, I want to have an opposite close. This had to have a bearish close. This was not good enough. It was maybe a pin bar, but I wouldn't trade it. Price does push further and now starting to fall pretty fast. Interesting. Kind of, to a certain degree, looking like a rising wedge perhaps. Depending on how you draw it. If you draw it like that, it looks like a rising wedge. Maybe not so much using these stops. But anyhow, there's that potential, at least definitely in this part, you can see a bit of a rising wedge there. And the price seems to be turning at this 125.25 and falling pretty fast. This could be, well, it's already too late, unfortunately, but there was no 4-hour candle here that really clearly showed that. Maybe this one. But this one is already so big that it's, after this closes, a bit of a pullback will probably be needed to get some decent R2R, because if this pulls back and entry is done here, for instance, then this is going to be the risk, and this is going to be the reward, with maybe potential follow through if it breaks. Anyhow, you can see that this candle has a lot of momentum. It isn't closed yet, but if it does close like this could be a reversal signal after this one already was giving kind of a first heads up already. So yeah, the euro dollar, pound dollar, I don't see much at the moment. Maybe only pound, as I said, if it goes higher or if it goes lower. The dollar yen, however, could be a reversal signal if this candle closes, either upon the retracement here or upon the breakout. Not easy to trade, but does offer some potential, I think. And the euro dollar only if it gets, just to summarize, only if it gets higher here on lower time frames, or perhaps if it gets a bit lower, down to 110 again. All right, let's take a look at some pairs that were interesting yesterday. Maybe they were interesting today again. All right. Just sending a quick tweet about the webinar, that the webinar is available for everyone. And if you're interested in following me, following Twitter account so that you can get some information sometimes about wave analysis or other content, or sometimes regarding the webinar. And you can do that by going to Twitter and following @Chris Sorsig, my name. Very simple. And I just sent a tweet in the meantime, like, strategy webinar for assistance is already on its way, join now. And here's wave analysis, etc. All right. Same thing for Admiral Markets, by the way. Admiral Markets, you see @Admiral Markets, with a lot of content that's being produced and distributed through Twitter. All right, some of the pairs that were interesting yesterday. Euro yen. Hi Jen, good to see you. Basically, Euro yen. Basically, I don't know if you just joined, Jen, but pound dollar does not look that interesting at the moment. Dollar yen. Euro yen. Excuse me. I was looking for a bit of a pullback here. Remember, down back to about this level. We said, or I said, back to about this top, and that's what happened. We had a breakout, pullback, and continuation. So at the very max, there was about 115 potential. So that was a good breakout. Did anyone catch that by any chance? The euro yen, or the euro odd, or perhaps the pound cad? Those were things we talked about yesterday, and I think I'm missing still one. No, that's and the dollar yen, but the reversal didn't happen. Anyone catch any pips on those that we discussed? This was the idea here. You can see what I talked about, this pullback here, breakout, pullback, and follow through. On an hourly, it's all part of momentum. Anyhow, great job, Malcolm. Malcolm got 40 pips on the euro odd. We'll take a look in euro odd in just a second. Awesome. Malcolm says used a bit of a tighter stop loss. But those things can happen. I mean, at least you got 40 pips and you learned from the experience. And stop losses, trail stops are not easy. The good thing is that we let the market decide. So it's just a good learning experience as well. I think the next time maybe you'll be able to balance it better, right? So good job. Euro yen. Well, let's take a look at the euro yen now. Good daily candle closing above this 137.50 resistance. So I think we can see follow through to 140, the next psychological level. Although we got to be careful that this does not run out of steam. Got a target at 139. Because the 1 hour candle chart has really pushed up a lot. See a tight spread on the euro yen here, sometimes even less than a pip at times. And that's a very useful tool for trading, of course. Let's put a Fibonacci sequence on this. All right, see how far it got. 1, 2, 3, fourth level. So it has some space to the fifth, perhaps. All right, there's some slight divergence on the 15-minute chart, as you can see here. Perhaps even slight double divergence. So it would be good to see price go back to the long-term moving average, like it did here and it did here. So I'll be interested if it hooks back to this level, about 137.90, 75 zone, for one more long potential, up to 139.30-ish, roughly. All right, now let's see. I would like to see some candles really stop at this level. Then I could use a tight stop loss maybe just below here. I wouldn't put a pending order there because then we really don't know how much, how fast this could fall. So I would rather see it fall, show some struggle here, some candles like this. Then I would feel a bit safer about taking it along, the stop loss below 137.50 and targeting 139.30, probably trail stopping the 4-hour lows. Yeah. So I think that's my plan. Eurod was interesting yesterday too. Eurod, I said look for a good, or I was going to look for a good 1 hour candle close. This was okay to me. It was a good, decent 1 hour candle, nothing wrong about it. I mean, it did have a bit of a wick, so if you skipped it because of that, fine, that's no problem either. To me, it was okay as long as it's more than 50%, sorry, less than 50% wick. This candle had a high and a low. Let's see, 37 pips. The close was about 11 and a half. So let's calculate that. 31% wick. And as long as the wick is less than 40%, it's okay. If it's between 40 and 50, discretionary call, more than 50 obviously is not good, because then the wick is bigger than the body. So that was okay. So anyone who took a long indeed there, perhaps, if you thought that was interesting, then you got some good candles. Look at this momentum, following through. All right, so some candlestick wicks here could indicate problems, or here's a fractal to trail stop. But this is then already moving for 14, 12 hours. So another way would be just to exit with a TP here, for instance, or a market exit, because following a trade like that would take a lot of time. Well, in the meantime, it went even further. During the night, there was Aussie news that pushed it further, but that would be not something probably that anyone would catch, but it did push further. And in the meantime, really surging here. Well, however I look at it, I just see resistance very close by. We have this top, weekly top. So now at the moment, I'm not too interested. Yesterday was a bit different, when price was about here and still had all that space left. Now that space, that real estate, has already been filled, and we're at resistance. So that has changed. I don't think it's as interesting anymore. Right? I think you see my point. Pound CAD, talked about it yesterday, got a bit of a breakout there as well. Not too much though, and back into a triangle. So from that point of view, as long as it stays above this support level, there could be a chance to break out above this trend line. So that could be a breakout still on the pound CAD. That could be still interesting. So Euro AUD is not interesting anymore. Euro Yen, but lower. Pound CAD higher. All right, so now let's take a look at some new exotics, or new pairs, sorry. AUD USD hooked back yesterday, not as deep as I expected. I was looking for the trend line, just missed that trend line by, I guess, how much, 10, 20 pips maybe, 15 pips, then moved down. Was looking for a short at the trend line, but just didn't get there. Ultimately, it did move down a bit lower than expected, about 130 pips. Does not look interesting at the moment. Looks like it's going to retrace. Let me see if there's something else. Kiwi is retracing as well, but isn't a downtrend, doesn't look interesting. Dollar CAD is a mixed picture. All the moving averages are, intertwined. Is an uptrend, has a good resistance level though close by. So if it does push above the H3, it could be an intraday long area, 131.50. That could be something to think about. So like the pound CAD. Pound yen does not look interesting. Too much resistance. Pound odd at resistance like euro odd. Same trade yesterday. Big momentum, trying to break through this resistance level. We did have a good daily candle close above it, all right? So we can see that maybe this thing can continue. We have 4-hour candles above that resistance level. And seems to be retracing now. So that could be maybe an interesting scenario for longs. Let's take a look at the Camarilla levels. Yeah, there could be some good trading here. I mean, there could be, if it hooks back to retest these bottoms, that could be interesting. If it makes some triangle here and then ultimately breaks to the upside, that could be interesting. I wouldn't expect price to go below these support levels. So anywhere where price bounces in this area could be interesting. So I'll keep an eye on price action. This 1-hour chart, 4-hour chart, 1-hour chart maybe. Take a look at these 1-hour candles as it approaches support. Or 30-minute or 50-minute chart too. And wouldn't be surprised to see it bounce back up. Maybe then down again, then up again, something like that. Euro pound is trying to break out of this falling wedge. Very first attempt. Not something I want to trade, but interesting. Could show more euro strength than pound strength. Yeah, I think that those are the pairs we normally look at as far as I remember. So to recap that, let's see, dollar yen reversal perhaps. Let's see, euro dollar when it breaks above the top for an intraday trade. Pound dollar either a bounce trade higher or lower. Pound CAD a breakout to the upside. Euro yen a pullback deeper. Dollar CAD a breakout to the upside. Dollar yen reversal. Euro New Zealand, if it gets back to support, a bit lower, or a triangle and breakout. Yeah, so those are the ideas I think I have floating in my mind. So let me write that down. EU breakout, GU bounce, both sides. Take a look at that again in a second. UJ still a reversal potential. Let's see, pound CAD breakout, dollar CAD breakout, EN Euro New Zealand pullback. Maybe a quick look at the dollar Swissy. Well, not that nice of a pattern. Well, interesting pattern, but not really tradable, maybe, better said. Getting close to support, not that appealing to trade, I think. No. So let me see if I missed anything. The Aussie and Kiwi are not interesting as well, at this moment at least, unless maybe the downtrend continues at one point. The EJ2, I forgot the EJ. EJEN, UC, GC. That's dollar CAD, pound CAD. EN is Euro New Zealand, EJ Euro Yen. Yeah, okay. Pound dollar one more time. And small question here. Let's see. Is there an indicator that has time to end of bar? Maybe there is. I don't know about it. Well, the hourly, of course, is simple. It would be useful for the 4-hour indeed. Okay, Caitlin says that it does exist and recommends to take a look on Google. Okay, you can maybe find it there. All right, pound dollar. Pound dollar one more time quickly for Jenny. Well, basically, if it gets lower, it's still the same thing as yesterday. If it does get lower, interesting, about one, let's see. You know, the 61.8 to 78.65, now it bounced off the 50. So that could be the bouncing spot, but we don't know. If it does get lower, that could be interesting. If it gets higher, maybe 156.50 could still be a fade out potential in this huge zone of resistance. Oh yeah, Malcolm, sorry about that. Your cat, we can take a look at that. So that's it on the pound dollar. Because otherwise, now it's in the middle. And if you look at the moving averages, they're all intertwined, flat, no angle. So not so interesting, situation when looking at those moving averages. It could use the 50 fib as a bouncing spot, but the thing is that it's just not an exciting pair at the moment. If you look at these moving averages, right, price is kind of oscillating a bit above it, a bit below it, and not going anywhere. Look at this daily chart. And that's the danger if you're trading one pair, is that if your pair is in like this environment, it's a bit of a bummer because you're trading a pair that really is not that interesting at this point. And that's just a disadvantage of trading one pair and not maybe keeping a second in mind or having that option, because then you can choose a pair that has more momentum, more pace. This pair is really not going anywhere. The daily chart, prices in the moving averages are flat, the moving averages are all intertwined. 4-hour, the same thing. 4-hour, basically, moving averages are flat, moving averages are intertwined, prices in the moving averages. The long term is the middle of the range. So when price is right now where it is here, in the middle, right on the long term, right on the short term, and the moving averages are flat, it could do really both things. So first, I think it's better to wait for a potential fade here or a potential bounce here. EuroCAD. Let's take a look at EuroCAD. The euro versus Canadian dollar is been moving up a lot. Same like the euro New Zealand and euro odd, kind of found that bounce in April. And after a pretty strong retracement, the EuroCAD, of course, had a lengthy up move here, where we had CAD weakness. Then a sizable correction as the euro weakened since the April 2015, spring of 2014, sorry. Right? As the euro corrected, we saw downside. And now we're seeing a bit of a rebound again last few months as the euro dollar too is correcting. Price has broken above this triangle. That's a great triangle because it's within a trend, an uptrend. So when you get the bullish break, it's a great potential trade because we have an uptrend, we have a pause, and we have a break. And we had a classical break, pullback, and now we're in the continuation. How far can it continue? We don't know. I mean, we can take a look at fib targets to get an idea. So let's first put this one on. Then we'll move it up. $61.8 fib bounce. So what is the target? We're already above the top. That's a good thing. 146.30 is the first target. Second target, 148. All right, so let's zoom in. All right, got a good 4-hour candle pushing above this pin bar, confirming the upside. So any hook back, I would say, to these moving averages, to the broken top at 144.90, could be an interesting long swing trade for a long. From here up to here. Yeah, Caitlin says it's a Marabozu candle, just like this one here. So when we get a retracement of the candle, I would expect follow through. We already had a bit of retracement. Maybe that's it. Let's put a fib on that candle. 38.2 fib bounce. So I would say the 50 at 145 probably is the max we could expect. I would say, I mean, you never know. It could go lower, but wouldn't count on it. Stop loss, I think the most logical one is below this candle low. Candle low is at 144.45, so stop loss at 144.37, for instance. Which is, well, it's about a 65 pip stop loss, but considering, the target at 146.20, that's already 2-1, and if you manage to hang in for 148, then that could be 5-1. So that looks like a good trade. What if it doesn't hook back to the 50 fib at 150.45? We need to take a look at the Camarilla to get an answer on that. We're at H3. All right, so if it does push through 145.55, I guess the only way would be to let it break, let it pull back to 145.50-ish and try to take a long there. Because then it's probably not going to hook back to 145. So either 145 could be interesting, or a break, pullback, continue. Either here at the blue or here at the top. That's my 2 cents on EuroCAD. Price action, the break, all look interesting so far. And I think that from that point of view, they look very similar to the dollar CAD and pound CAD too, and maybe even looks a bit better. I don't know. Well, anyhow, it could be added to my list as well. So thanks for that. So Euro CAD, pound CAD, dollar CAD all have some interesting parts. Then same for Euro CAD, Euro New Zealand, Euro Yen. So if the euro is indeed getting stronger, the CAD is getting weaker. From that point of view, maybe EuroCAD combines those two elements. Could be an interesting pair to look at. Let's take a look at, from that point of view, let's take a look at the market heat map and see what's going on there. We found on the Admiral Markets website, go to Analytics. Same spot where you find wave and technical analysis, you'll find the market heat map too. Let's take a look what's going on. Start with stocks here, I guess. Yeah. And well, pound odd is a big one. Pound New Zealand, Euro New Zealand. That's the one I have in mind. The others not so much. Euro CAD 2, nice mover. Euro New Zealand 2, pound CAD 2. You can see their, substantial movement. Substantial range. There are some that are even more, but the blue box, right? These have moved even more, but I don't like those from a technical point of view. The slow movers, looks like pound dollar at the moment. Look at that. Pound dollar is the slowest mover at the moment with the least change. As I said, when looking at the chart, it doesn't look that interesting to me. Well, the heat map confirms it. It's at the worst position from, comparing it to yesterday. Other not so good ones, dollar yen, CAD yen, odd New Zealand, Swiss yen, and the list goes on and on, right? Anyone that's kind of stuck around this low range level here, not the best. The further it gets here, more interesting. You can take a look at the correlation. Let's take a look at Euro and CAD. Euro dollar and dollar CAD has a strong negative correlation at the moment. Actually, the euro is strongly correlated to the euro yen at this point. Positive correlation. The one that seems not correlated is the dollar Swiss. It doesn't seem that interesting to me. Pound doesn't seem that correlated either, but that's just because it's not moving. Dollar yen, also not so much, but it's not moving. So that kind of confirms, I think, from my point of view, that the CAD and the euro are the ones that are moving, because the euro is correlating high to other euros. So it's the euro that's pushing the other euros probably. That's why pound and dollar yen are not so correlated, because they're not the ones moving. So yeah, the euro and the CAD side of things seem the most interesting. Also from this correlation point of view, you can see here. a lot of red fields when looking at the dollar CAD and euro dollar. So yeah, that kind of confirms already the analysis what we did. Okay, well, does anyone have any questions? Does anyone have any follow-up maybe, or maybe another pair that you think is interesting? It's still early, but to be honest, I think I've talked about the main things that I find interesting for today. How do you trade the news? I'm not a news trader. I mean, in theory, I could talk about it a bit. In practice, I hardly trade it. So it depends, like how what you're looking for. If you really want to trade the news, then you need a quick information about what the news is, have an idea what's expected, and see basically if the news figure is heavily deviating from expected and what the reaction could be. I mean, you can look at the minute chart or a tick chart maybe, or a range chart, and try to see how the momentum is pushing and perhaps try to trade with that momentum. I mean, I'm sure that there's strategies on it. I think that Nenet has a strategy as well on it. I'm not sure. I think so. I think it would be maybe Nenet knows a bit more about it than I do. So if you're interested in it, I think it's best probably to send an email to Nenet. Let me write down where you can catch him. All right. info@elitecurrency.com. info@elitecurrency.com. And he's on holiday now, but I'm sure that when he's back, okay. Yeah, in general, indeed, you want to be careful. Caitlin says that he has seen losses in a matter of seconds, and the market really moves fast indeed. So you have to be, and the market just is so quick. You have to be very, very careful with your margin. Realize that you could really lose more than you expect. All right, let's take a look. Let's take a look at the DAX. Derek is talking about the DAX, some panic perhaps. Let's take a look. And AUD, possible triangle structure with downside. All right, AUD, let's take a look. Weekly chart. Well, why not start with the monthly chart? What's going on here? Monthly chart. Support level, fighting its way back to moving averages. Weekly chart, about to make a crossover. You can see prices dragging the short term right into the long term. Daily chart, downtrend, but right at support. 4-hour chart, looks like it's breaking this wedge. Looks like it broke that support line and is hooking back to it. That could be indeed a short potential with the target back to the bottom. This is a big support level at about 89.25. That level could hold again. But there could be some potential to that level, from a break, pullback, continuation. Break, pullback, continuation. So now the pullback is happening. Where could the pullback stop? Let's see. 15-minute chart. We got divergence between these bottoms. And when there's divergence between bottoms, there's a chance that price can go back to the long-term moving average. So from that point of view, I would like price to go back to 91.25. $91.37 right here. That would be a good level. You got a trend line too, of course, breaking right there. So these two fibs could be also levels to think about. Anywhere in here could be a turning spot. Pending order is possible with the stop loss above it here, or waiting for some kind of move up, waiting for price to stop there, getting some candles in this zone, and then taking the short. Getting a few candles there helps by not jumping in against momentum. All right, DAX. Let's see. Yeah, everybody already said it. There was a lot of reaction to the Chinese news. DAX is one of them. This channel, we talked about that last week. That channel broke with some good 4-hour candles, and then boom, gapped and more downside this morning. And there's a lot of downside happening, falling from about 100 points. So we talked about it here that we had a lot of downside momentum, but we're at a bouncing spot. We did get the bounce, channel up. Now we're breaking that channel as it's basically probably a follow through of this downside momentum. Momentum, correction, momentum. So what about now? Well, now back into, again, getting close to the support level. I do think it will probably have a bit more potential to go lower and maybe retest these support levels in here. Personally, I don't see a trade right now though. I mean, there is a chance to get here. Do I want to trade it right here with this move behind me, which means a stop loss? I don't know where a safe stop loss would be. There's no, the reward there is too little compared to whatever risk you look at. So I'm not interested now. I would need a pullback again before potentially trading it. I don't trade DAX, but potentially trade it. If I'm analyzing it, that's what I would. That's what I'm thinking. But yeah, definitely true. Derek, thanks for the heads up. Big stuff, big movement here on DAX. DAX is the German index. The indices are falling. At this moment, as maybe indeed response to probably a response to the news from China, and as Beverly says, most of these main indices are looking like this, and it's seen as basically as a competitive devaluation, or at least that's what some say. JP Morgan, for instance, have the news feed next to me, said that in a report on Tuesday. So if it's a devaluation, then it's going to be more difficult to export, which is not good for the European economy, for the US economy, and that's not good for the companies in those countries, and that's why we're probably seeing these indices fall. At least what I understand. I'm more a technical guy, but this is my understanding. So yeah, that's a big news. So it's going to be very interesting next month. Will the Fed, will the FOMC make the decision to move up? It's becoming more difficult. They're having more tailwind against them. I mean, or headwind, sorry, because because of these factors, because of what happened yesterday, because of England, Bank of England not looking to move upwards, right? Only 1 in favor, 8 against. Doesn't look sometime soon, despite the good numbers in England. And euro still not as, still very fragile. So there are globally a lot of difficulties and a lot of easing, monetary easing, and the US would be making a step against that, which is tough. Even if their situation, is getting better, globally it could, if the things are not moving forward, that could slow down the US too. So would a rate hike come at all? I mean, obviously everyone is counting on the rate hike somewhere in 2015. Personally, I myself thought 2016, the beginning of this year. And at this moment, that prediction or kind of prediction could become maybe true if you look at what's going on now. So let's see. Anyone have a particular date in mind? What they think is the most likely? What do you think? Rate hike? Yes, no, when? When the webinar is recorded, and you can find it on YouTube actually. Mostly within a day, it should be uploaded. You can find it by going to subscribing, for instance, or looking at Admiral Markets YouTube channel, and I'll show you how to get there in a second. Let me find the page. We have one saying December, Beverly saying not at the end of this year. Difficult, of course, to make, to know. Definitely Beverly. It's always, always a guesstimate. When I said at the beginning of this year that I think it's 2016, obviously it's prediction, and there's so many factors that can change in that time. Right? But it's always still a fun thing to talk about, and if you're right, that's cool, but it's more of a long-term guesstimate and not that important. So you go to YouTube. That's taking a bit longer. Okay, let me wait for that to load. I don't know why it's so slow. Anyhow, what's happening with oil? Oil is, slowly but surely edging lower again, reaching these 40-ish, 43-ish bottom. Gold is recovering. We did have 5 days, 6 days not breaking this bottom. So the momentum to the downside is over. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days not breaking it. We're getting the rally off of the lack of follow through to the downside. Because this momentum was over. Same for silver. All right. Well, in the meantime, let me tell you, I don't know what's wrong with my internet, but I'll try to show you that you can sign up for tomorrow's webinar. Just go to admiralmarkets.com, education, then click on webinars. Because tomorrow we have Wave webinar part 2, where we dive into a bit more deeper material, like for instance, trading it, potentially trading it, looking at entry potentials, exit potentials. So that's part 2 next week, August 13, not next week, tomorrow, August 13. Okay, hope to see you in that webinar. And then next week we got a normal schedule, and then it will be back. So let me take a look here at the Admiral Markets page. Part 1, you would find on Admiral Markets 2. I'm going to show you that right now. Here. You want to find Admiral Markets and subscribe, because then you get all the webinars that are uploaded. You will see it right away in your uploads subscriptions. When you go to subscriptions, you see uploads. All right, and you'll see Admiral Markets. And you'll see everything there. So also the webinar, see yesterday's webinar there, Live Trading Lab, uploaded 22 hours ago. So it goes pretty fast. Today's will be there too. So you can subscribe to Admiral Markets, or you can, just look at their page and see if you can find it. But it's easier to subscribe. This is Admiral Markets. If you're interested in the educational website that Ned and I myself do, then you can do that and subscribe to Elite Currency, for instance. That's the website that we manage together, and we have content that we put on YouTube as well. We have Elite Currency YouTube channel too, and that's this one. So MJ, if you look for Admiral Markets, I think the best would probably be to just type Admiral Markets Wave August 6. No, that didn't help. Let's see. Let's just look for Admiral Markets. All right, then scroll down. Let's see, strategy, educational tutorials. We can look at uploads. It was only a week ago. That could be one way. Or go to playlists and then click on Pro Learning Lab within playlists. Then scroll to the bottom where we have the most recent newest one. And it's not there. Okay. Sorry about that. So I'll ask them to add it. All right, that's a pity. So we'll try to add that one. I'll send a message today. Hopefully it'll be today. It'll be uploaded. Normally it is, but the strategy and live trading room labs are updated immediately. The Pro Learning Lab has not been that consistent, as you can see, because we have one in July, one in June, one in May, but we're missing a few. So I'll see if we can improve that. Okay. Hopefully we'll have it uploaded by today. All right, folks, thanks so much for joining. Wish you all good trading, and I hope to see you in tomorrow's webinar. Happy hunting. Cheers.